two more questions. One is from Julie, who asks, a big difference between ME and AIDS in the early days was that AIDS was seen as 100% fatal, whereas ME only occasionally kills people outright. You commented that Americans couldn't countenance letting people die. Any ideas on how to deal with that?
Wow. Yeah, I mean, pointing out how extensive. I mean, you have numbers that are very still. You don't have the deaths, but you have numbers that are very frightening as far as the number of people who are affected, and you have the cost to society of that many people being ill for the rest of their lives, and far less productive than the non-ill, and those use what you've got, and I think it's pretty stunning, upsetting statistics. Use the statistics you have. Our statistics were rates of death. Yours are how many are affected, and yours are also you have a frustrating story of scientific indifference and a medical mystery. By 1983-84, they did discover the HIV virus, and so we knew what caused AIDS early on. But you have a much harder road ahead in that sense of figuring out the cause or causes, of pushing for a massive basic research effort to figure that out, and those are compelling stories, I think, and use that.
To put Julie's question another way, there's sort of, and this is kind of a simile I've used before, but there's a way in which the AIDS pandemic was like a tsunami, and this is a little more like global warming, and,
yes.
and we know how to respond to these sort of like these big crises, but it's harder to sort of know how to respond to these sort of more slower moving things, because if I don't get treatment, I will, probably still be alive next year. I'll probably still be alive in 10 years.
Right.
But I'm probably still going to be in my bed, not leaving my house, more than a couple times a year,
Right.
Not having any friends to socialize with, not being able to eat dinner at the table, not being able to like read or think or have a career or children, or all of those things that make life are sort of taken away from you to different degrees. And so it's a harder story to tell, but I just wonder if you have any thoughts or ideas on sort of how to try to make it feel more immediate and dramatic.
Yeah. You try, and your documentary is one way of doing that. You try to get media stories, but in this sense, there's kind of a similarity now between HIV/AIDS and your movement. Certainly, the country thinks HIV/AIDS is a 1980s was a 1980s problem.
We fixed that. It's over.
Yeah, we can't get press stories anymore. Very, very few, and the death rate plummeted. But we have the same rate of infections as we did in 1992. The country is completely failing on prevention. Entire new generations of gay men are becoming infected because nobody's listening and nobody cares. So hold on one second. Bye-bye. So you have to just sometimes accept that reality. I think AIDS activists are kind of just living with that new reality, and realizing that they've just got to do a far more efficient inside game finding their allies in the medical community. We're now trying to find allies in city health departments and at the CDC to finally get this prevention problem fixed and to lower the 50,000 infections every year. And it's not going to be big and I think we've given up on the big and splashy, and we've given up on using the mainstream media. Um, and we're doing a really strong inside game, because there are people in the New York City Health Department, New York State Health Department, San Francisco, all the major cities that would love to lower their HIV, that believe in this too. So we have allies in public health, and we're trying to use that now. Yeah, it's hard for I'm fascinated about things like fighting global warming. They're having the exact same issue, and it's incredibly depressing. At some point, you got to wonder, when do you resort to uh, uh, really strong civil, uh, tearing things down, real anger. But it's horrible when people ignore you.